Everybody still kind of up to speed here? Okay. Addressing the connection between the days of creation and the festivals and the letters to finish that off. And then let me explain why this is critical. According to the list that Audrey gave us here of the meanings of the letters, we were just discussing in the break here how if you really want to know what a word means, you can look it up in Strong's or a lexicon or a dictionary, and they'll sometimes give you one or two words, but they might give you 10 different words. And it's like, how do I know? Do I just pick the best one or what? If you see the letter Gimel, I've already mentioned that it might mean a camel, or it might mean a conduit, or a roadway, or it might mean what a camel does, which is go back and forth, or it might mean the thing that a camel is carrying. It's like, well, or it might mean the one who gives. How do you know what to do with that if you see the letter Gimel? That's too many choices to narrow it down and make sense out of translating. So then, if you read what Jeff Benner says, well, a Gimel is a foot. It's like, well, is it a foot or is it a camel? Or is it a camel's foot? Is the Aleph an ox or is it the ox's head? Or is it the master telling the ox what to do? You know, it's pretty confusing. So what I'm attempting to do here, and this is taking a little bit of time, and most of this was on the DVD that we made in 2006, which some of you have seen, but the point is, my premise is this. If you understand the Mishkan, how it's tied to the days of creation and the festivals, it's proven, or you might say validated by the Beatitudes in Matthew 6, and it is fundamentally the meaning at the basest level possible of what the letters mean. Therefore, you can take that concept and see where all these other concepts come from. But if you just look at all these other concepts, you'll never find it. It's too below. But when Yahweh said to Moshe, make the Mishkan after this pattern, my hypothesis is that the pattern pre-existed in the heavenly realm, the waters above the expanse. That somewhere, it says in the first, I think it's the beginning of chapter 2 of Bereshit, of Genesis, he says, and thus the heavens and earth were finished. The creation, the making of the heavens and earth were finished, and all their array, which means everything else. Now, it seems to me that if a pattern or a Mishkan in the heavenly realm, the upper waters, was to be made, logically speaking, it would have had to have been made that first week. Because he said, thus everything in heaven and earth was finished being made that first week. Which means that the Mishkan, or the Mishkan pattern, was established and determined the first week. If this Mishkan pattern is the map of the days of creation, either he created the 7 days, and then he says, let me reference what these are. Well, that's interesting. It goes like this, and then he made the Mishkan out of that pattern, but nevertheless, it would have been established by the pattern set the first week. Or the Mishkan itself is the blueprint for the 7 days of creation, which happened to coincide with the 7 festivals. Now, whether he made the 7 festivals later and says, I'm going to key them to the 7 days of creation, wouldn't that be interesting? Or he said, no, this is all by plan. This is so specifically by plan that the 7 days are a model of the 7 festivals, which are a model of the Mishkan, which was spoken in the exact format as the Beatitudes, which all itself is exactly a model of who Yahweh chooses to present himself as, whether in the Torah, or as the Messiah, the man, or in us, as the Ruach leads us. It's all the same picture. It's all the same picture, and this is the picture. So if this, in a sense, you could say, well, what does Holy Spirit mean? In Hebrew, it would be Ruach, which is translated as spirit, or according to some of Jeff Benner's work, it means the prescribed path of the wind, like the jet stream. Like this, according to the physics of aerodynamics and hydrophysics and all, this is the pathway that the air is going to move. In Hebrew, it's known as the derek, or the path, or the way, or the journey, or the walk, which is Dalet, Resh, Kaf. In modern Hebrew, interestingly enough, there's almost like this aspect to it. It means the way, the path, the walk, the derek. He will teach us of his ways. That's the word for way, derek. And just to give you one more little clue, that's like D-R-K, derek. And anyway, the point is, Kadesh, or Kadosh, we may just mention this word. I wrote it up there before. Just to give you, just to show you, this is a little taste of where we're going in Daniel, and hopefully just a couple minutes. When he says in the book of Leviticus many times, when he gave, for example, the food instructions, what is food and what is not food? This is food you are to eat. This is not food. Don't eat it. I liken it to, it makes it a little easier to deal with. If someone said, would you like a cup of tea? Oh, sure. And they go and you see them vacuum, and then pull out the vacuum cleaner bag and stick it in a pot of water and heat it up and then pour it into a cup and hand it to you. It's like, what are you doing? I made you some tea. It's like, that's the vacuum cleaner filter bag. Well, that's what is a cockroach, a pig, a vulture, a rat. They're the vacuum cleaners of the earth. Shrimp, lobsters, crab, clams, oysters, they're the vacuum cleaners of the sea. Sturgeons, catfish. They are doing their job, and they do it well. We have been given a job to do. We were told, don't eat those guys. They're doing their job. The more you eat them, the less they'll be able to do their job, and we get polluted land and water. But the point is, he said, they're the vacuum cleaners. Don't make your food out of the vacuum cleaner bags. It's not food, but it tastes so good. It's not food. Take your pick. He said, don't do it. He said, my words to you are life and health and prosperity and wisdom and blessing. Now you can choose the alternative if you'd like. But these are the ways offered to you. This is a kaf. An open hand, it means gift, offering. You can choose to take it and receive it. That's also a kaf, meaning to receive the gift, which is itself strained and filtered for just the best, what he gives you, which are his covering, also a kaf, like a wing. Yeshua said, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I would have taken you under my wing, but you would not." That's a kaf. Moshe said, "Show me your glory." And he said, "Okay, tell you what. You can't see my face." The face would be kind of like the resh, although resh means head or exalted man. It's not literally face, but it's drawn almost like, the face of the man. But he showed him his backside, which was his kuf view. Minus the face. How did he show him his kuf view? By putting his kaf his open hand. He said to Moshe, "I'm going to put you in this cleft of the rock and cover you with my hand." The word is kafi, which is kaf yod. But I think it's spelled kaf pei yod, because the pei has an F sound, and this has a Y sound, and that has a K sound. So it's kafi. So Yahweh put kafi on Moses in order to let him see, keep him awake and see what was the glory of that. Right. It's coffee time, right? The other interesting thing about this, kaf yod, is the word that means, in Hebrew, for, or thus, or because. But in the dictionary, in the Red Etymological Dictionary, it also is a branding or a burning. It's almost like somehow this kaf yod maybe is some kind of a brand where he says his two hands, his blessing and his hand of work. It's almost like the push and the pull of the lamed, of the teaching and learning. It's almost like Here's the gift, but you're going to work at it. Here's my covering, but you got to take hold of it. It's like the meanings of the Kaf and Lamed, or the Kaf and the Yod. The burning or the branding is not that I'm on a stretcher, just pick me up and carry me into the kingdom, please. Okay, he'll pick you up on a stretcher and carry you into the kingdom. That's like coming from the Zion into the Het. But once you're in the Het, he throws you on the potter's wheel, and it's the work of the two hands. The Yod and the Kaf is what the business is all about. For, thus, because, it's the word pronounced ki, or ki. Ki kadosh, for he is holy. So the word kadosh, we are just about to touch base on that, and this is just a little taste of what the whole book of Daniel, what we're going to do with it. Kadosh, Kuf, Dalet, Shin. So the Kuf is like the pillar of fire, right? Pillar of fire, pillar of smoke. Pillar of fire and smoke. And now remember, so this is the back of the side. This is what Moses saw, right? And because he put his Kaf over Moses, with the Kaf over him, imagine the Torah, the Kaf, the lines of instruction, being what he puts over us so that we can see his glory. You see that picture? He put his Kaf on Moses, who was in the rock, so that Moses could see his Kuf view. You see the relationship? Moshe the man, who was in the rock, which we could think of as being, let's say it's Yeshua the rock, right? The Zion, the one Zion. Yeshua, who was in the cleft of the rock that was around him. The Kaf being over him, the Kuf passes by. So he can see the Kuf view. So the Kuf view then has something to do with what Moses saw, which was the Kavod, which is Kuf Dalet, I believe, which was the glory, to use an English word for the moment. It's the back of the head. But the Kuf is also that which rises up and spreads out, like the pillar of fire. It's kind of like a mushroom shape, or it's kind of like a helicopter. I think of it as a helicopter view. The helicopter rides up, and you can see down below, and you get the overview. So if the Kuf, as you'll notice, is not part of the Mishkan, but it's after the Mishkan, which is that which rises up from the Mishkan, and then you get the whole overview. It's also when Yahweh himself, the Almighty, came to localize himself right there on top of the Mishkan. So the Kuf view is this, the all becoming this one. It's also us coming up to the expanse, the all. But anyway, it's raising up to a different dimension, a different plateau, a different place. He separated waters from waters. In his place, everything is clean and pure. In our place, it's defiled. So it's raising up to where things are clean. This word, Dalet Shin, like, interesting enough, in Portland, the synagogue of Neve Shalom is actually on Dosh Road. Well, the word Dosh means like to douse something with water. It's something clean. It's something purified. It's something washed. This is the door to fire. So to rise up to the door of the fiery realm. If Mem is water and Shin is fire, so you have this, like we said before, this duality of the word Shem, Shin, Mem, as meaning name, but it's like the essence, both spiritual and physical, of fire and water, of ethereal essence, of substantive essence. Somebody's name is not just what they're called as a phonetic soundbite, but it's something about them. So when he gives us his name, it's something about his being. So you have the word then for heavens is actually Shemayim, which would be spelled Shin Mem, plural, which is name, Yod Mem, which actually means names. Shemayim itself is the word that's translated as the heavens. So what about the heavens has to do with names? Well, the stars are named. When we go there, we'll shine like the stars forever and ever. Those who teach righteousness, according to Daniel 12:3, will and teach others about righteousness. So, and he will give us a name. We will see his name. He's really into names. So the point is, if you have Kuf Dalet Shin, otherwise translated as the word holy, it's raising up to the door of the realm of fire. People have a picture of the devil sitting on a throne in hell surrounded by fire holding a pitchfork. But actually, if you read in Revelation, Ezekiel, I think maybe in Zechariah, and it's Yahweh's throne, which is actually like the Ark of the Covenant, you might say, is surrounded by fire. And his symbol is the sheen, or the modern sheen, which is almost like a pitchfork. So it's almost like the devil sitting on a throne of fire holding a pitchfork is a ripoff of the pictures of El Shaddai. El Shaddai. So the sheen is the monogram of El Shaddai, and sheen again is teeth, or fire, or then that which consumes, both teeth and fire consume, or destruction and ruin. Or it's like being on a mountain when you're in position to throw stuff down of armaments. It's also a shad. Sheen Dalet is actually a woman's breath, so it has to do with nurturing and providing. So El Shaddai, El, which would be Aleph Lamed, is mighty, strong, or powerful. Shad, and then Yod at the end is my. So the powerful of my provision, my nurturing, is El Shaddai. Is the way to read that. But Shad also is a demon, or that which devastates. So you could say, well, wait a minute, is it a devil, or is it El Shaddai, the nice, comforting? He says he's both. He says, don't even, we, Christologically speaking, we have this thing about the devil, and the devil doing this, and the devil doing that. And I'm not saying there's no devil, but he says, Yahweh says, in the scriptures, he says, don't you even think about your adversary. I'm your adversary. He says, I make light and I make darkness. I make the blessing and I make the cursing. I'm the guy you reckon with. Now, if you don't want to come into his kingdom, you might be then subject to the devils if you're out here. But once you come into his kingdom, he's the only guy we're supposed to reference, from what I can tell in reading this. Something's going wrong, you reference him. Something's going right, you reference him. This whole talk of messing about the devil, I happen to think doesn't seem to fit the pattern. Because in here, there's no devil, it's only Yahweh and what he's doing. Now, again, that gets into some doctrines and theologies that we can discuss at another time. And I'm not against anybody who wants to go there. But I'm trying to stick to the words. And so the question is, let's stick to the words and see what the words say, and anything else is a tangential issue, which would be great to address on some other occasions. But this says something about Kadosh, what we call holy, means translated set apart. But why is it set apart? Because it's the elevated place up into his realm of purity, which is clean. Dalet Shin, Dosh. It's the door to fire. The portal of purely refined, of no blemish, no obstructions. Nothing of this world is there. Nothing of the mem of the world of birth and trauma and chaos is here. His realm is the set-apart, distinctive place of absolute, pure reference. And I mention that because it goes back into some other things that hopefully we'll get to. But that's one. So here the mechanism of translating the word kadosh is he imparts the clean. So what was holy? The Holy of Holies, the Kadosh Kadoshim, is the word for where the Ark of the Covenant was. The word Kadosh is holy. Holy of Holies is Kadosh Kadoshim. It's also called the Debir. There's one place in the Scriptures where that room, where the Ark of the Covenant was put, was referred to as the Debir. The word Debir, Dalet, Bet, Resh, is the word for word. It also means matter or thing. It also means ruin or field or plague. It also is a place of pasture. You have 10 commandments. It's actually 10 Debarim. Debir with the plural of Yod Mem, which is words, like an S. And the thing is, it's the matters and the things which he gave us, the regard of which he gave them, Kaf Lamed, the regard of which will bring forth, Mem Nun, either plague or pasture, either blessing or cursing. So see, embedded in each word is the, you might say like a riddle or a puzzle of what the word actually means, and what the word will produce, and why we ought to regard the word. So if somebody says, hey, there is no law, what law are they referring to? Are they referring to the Ten Commandments? Well, these are the Devarim. Is he saying there is no door to the house of the exalted man? There's only one exalted man, just like when Yeshua was asked something about being good, he said, why do you call me good? There's only one good. Well, we say there's only one exalted man, and that's the Messiah. Now, people who might watch this tape, there's a question of, well, is it the Messiah who's already been here and coming back, or is it the Messiah that hasn't been here and we expect him to come back? The point is, there's one exalted man. There's one exalted man, and that's the Vav of Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. And the question of whether he came here the first time or not is another matter, but that's the exalted man. This Vav of Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. Here's another thing. We'll get right into the meaning of this in a moment. When he said Yehi Or, the first commandment that we already addressed, Yehi, Yod, Hey, Yod, Aleph, Vav, Resh. We'll get this in a minute when we go through the whole alphabet. This is translated, let there be, or there was. But what it is the hand that works, right? We already talked about that, the working hand, like the potter, like the creator. And then the Hey, the revelation of, or the expression of, or here, this is the word of, and then the Yod at the end, which means calling it my own. So here, as an artist, as a songwriter, as an author, he says, I made this, I'm revealing it, and I'm calling it my own. That's what literally the word Yehi means. It doesn't mean let there be or and there was. It means I made it, I'm showing it to you, and I'm saying this is mine. Or, well, that's translated simply in English as the word for light. But if you look at the word for menorah, it's Mem, Nun, Vav, Resh, Hey. There's no Aleph in the word menorah. And so people say, well, it's just Vav, Resh means light. So there's two kinds of light. So if you look at the sun, moon, and stars that were created on day 4, the word light, I believe, doesn't have an Aleph. It's just speaking of the light that has the letters Vav, Resh in it. Well, Vav, Resh, interestingly enough, happens to be the two letters which are man. Right? Here you have the 6th letter, Vav, and then you have the 20th letter, Resh, which is the exalted man. So something about this man is the common man, and this letter is the exalted man, the head man, the chief man. The common man, so if you look at the two comings of the Messiah, to go there, you'd have Ben Yosef, right? The son of Yosef, who was misunderstood, beaten, thrown into the dungeon. He was later exalted, but he was the suffering servant man. And then you have Ben David, who was the king. Hence, the duality of Messiah coming back as the conquering king the first time as the suffering servant. So the two letters that are man, you have the common man and the Resh man. You have the basic man, the man walking the face of the earth, like our case now. And then we have the promise that after this, remember the Kuf means after this, like the back of the head, that which follows. After this, exalted man. Yeshua, rising from the dead, taking on a different disposition of his nature and physicality, is a prototype of the exalted man, the Resh. As he is, so will be. Like the caterpillar that sprouts its wings and now is a different aspect. That's a model for what we will be. So we come from the caterpillar, basic, average man, Vav, who must walk this route, this ruach, this path, this prescribed path of the wind, the Kadesh, Kuf Dalet Shin, the pure, clean matters of the heavenly realm. And the word ruach is Resh, Vav, Chet, which is the word translated spirit, So the spirit of the Kodesh, Holy Spirit, is the spirit of the clean things. But if the Ruach, according to Jeff Benner's breaking down the word, is the prescribed path of the wind, then the prescribed path for the Vav man to regard in order to get to be Resh man, the prescribed path, we'll go into this in a minute, is the meaning of it's like the word aleph, the plan, the purpose. Like when you set an ox, the reason why they use oxen to plow, you set them on the course and they go straight. Horses and other animals go wayward, but the ox sets straight on the plow. That's one reason why the aleph is typified by the ox head. You set him on the course, and that which goes, he's not going to stop until he accomplishes it. Yahweh says, my word will not return to me void, but it will accomplish whatever I set it forth to do. Another place he says, as I have planned, so it shall be. As I have purposed, so it shall come about. That's a model right there in words of aleph and tav. Aleph. That's why it's white. Those who know about color and stuff, white includes all the other colors. So the aleph and the tav here in this picture are white. As I have planned, what's the plan? This. So it shall be. As I have purposed, what's the purpose? This. So it shall arise. So what is the prescribed path? This is the prescribed path. What's then the Ruach, the prescribed path of the holy things, of the things from his realm of kadoshness? Hey, it's the alphabet. Could it be the alphabet is the Ruach HaKodesh? Oh, that would mean the alphabet's the Holy Spirit? Am I saying that? What I'm saying is we've misunderstood the concept of Holy Spirit, and that the prescribed path of his high, clean purity is given to us in the Hebrew alphabet if we can see it. And if we can see it as its base level, then we can translate every other word of the Bible based on that premise, not some of these other things which are written, which are surface variants. So let me go back to this then. These three that are on the outside of the Mishkan court, the fence, the altar of sacrifice, and the laver, are like the spring festivals. Passover, unleavened bread, and Shavuot, spring festivals. First coming of Yeshua. Fall festivals, according to Michael Brood's study. Yom Teruah, trumpet. What has the trumpet got to do with a shofar? I mean, the trumpet is shofar. What has the shofar got to do with menorah? A shofar is filled with sound, wind, breath, in order to produce the fruit of noise. A menorah filled with oil to produce the fruit of light. A good steward is filled with the ruach to produce the fruit of Galatians 5:22, right? And the tree is filled with good nutrients to produce good fruit. It all has to do with bearing fruit, a servant thing. Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement, Judgment Day, the day that we will be weighed and measured, the day that our faces will be seen for what they are, weighed at all levels, and justice accordingly meted out. Sukkot, the time of the mouth, the time for rejoicing, the time for communicating, fellowshipping, eating, drinking, laughing, praying, singing, that's all Sukkot mouth business. And Shemini Atzeret, typically Shemini Atzeret is not considered its own festival, but if you look close to Leviticus 23, Sukkot, the pay has 7 days. The last day is the closing festival. That's Shemini Atzeret, that's its own festival, which is like bookend. You got Pesach, 1 day, 7 days of Hag Matzot, unleavened bread. That's 1 and then 7. At the end, you've got 7 and 1. You've got the 7 days of Sukkot, the 1 day of Shemini Atzeret. So it's like the inverse. To go real quick onto the wheel within a wheel concept, just to show how this works, it all has to do with repetition and learning again and again and again and again. So what he gave us is the Sabbath day. You got 6 cogs on a wheel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 cogs. That's okay. Here's the Sabbath day. Right? And as this wheel goes around, every month, every week you've got the Sabbath day. Every month you check for the new moon. So you got 30 days. And then as it goes through the wheel of the year, you've got the festivals. You've got the 3 in the fall, and you've got the 3 in the spring, and the 4 in the fall. So you got this wheel within a wheel, and then the bigger wheel is you've got Jubilee, which is also counting 50. Similar to the Wheel of Shavuot, which is the third festival in the spring, which is also counting 50. So 50 means something to him. So what I'm basically saying is that he set up within this whole thing, this pattern of counting, of going over it. Every week is the Sabbath day. Then you've got the monthly. Then you've got the yearly. And you've got the cycles of the festivals, around and around and around, counting 50, and then you start over. So within this whole thing, you've got this pattern of going forward, but at the same time, you're going around. Hey, there's another kuf. Another kuf pattern. This pattern of the spiral is embedded in, it's all over the place. So the point is this. At a fundamental level, the days of creation, 1 through 7, this is the day he put sun, moon, and stars. This is the day he separated, put fish in the sea and birds in the air, right? Like Judgment Day, heaven and hell, in, you're out. This is Sukkot, like I said, the fellowship. And then this is Shemini Atzeret, the set-apart day that most people forget about. They incorporate it into Sukkot, but it's the last day, the last gathering. And the interesting thing about Shemini Atzeret is it's the first day, you might say, of rolling back the Torah scroll, what they call Simchat Torah, the joy of the Torah, where they start the Torah reading all over again. So the first day is like the Aleph, but it's the last festival, which is like the Tav. So you've got a combination there of the Aleph and Tav. It's also the 8th day, and 8 is the letter for Het, which means new beginning. It literally means new beginning, like entering in. So that's also an 8, which is like the first, like the new beginning, which is an Aleph concept. And then you've got the Tav, which is the position of the Kadosh Kodashim, or the last one, the place of the covenant, the Ark of the Covenant. So that's like a Torah. So there you go. You have an Aleph Tav again. Just a little shorthand, Aleph, Tav, and Paleo. I kind of write it like that. But it also has to do, you could go on and see these different types, that the first and the last. Yeshua said, I'm the first and the last. The Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end. It's all that picture there, which is the Zadik. The letter Zadi means righteous. So you have the first and the last is the Zadi, which is the Dabir, which is the word for word, which is the Ark of the Covenant, which has in it the Torah. Essentially, you can say these are all the same thing, which is, since Yeshua claimed to be that, he's the icon or the archetype of righteousness. Anyway, so you understand how it works? Now, so when you see this list, which I'm going to give you here as a key to translating Daniel, it's not a matter then necessarily of saying which of the 10 do you choose between, because each letter means all those things. And it's not necessarily a matter of saying, which exact thing do I get? But it's like getting a picture of what the concept is that the word is telling you. So the word for Dabir, to touch that real quick. Dalet, Bet, Resh. Okay, there you have a door. And a Bet is like a house, but it's also not just a house, it's a body or a container of some kind. It's also a woman or a wife. And Resh is the exalted man, which would be like the husband. So the Dabir is kind of like the door to the house of the man, or the door by which the woman is the man's. Another way to read this is that the two outside letters are this is according to a Brad Scott teaching, that the outside letters are like the body or the husk or the encapsulating mechanism, and the inner letter of the three is the heart of it. So you might say, well, the door to the Messiah, the exalted man, the door to him is what it's all about, but at his heart is the Bet, his house, which is his bride, which is his metaphorical woman. That's what the debir is all about. Well, what's the debir? The debir is the word. What is his word for? The word is so that we who want to be the bet of Resh can have access to the dalet. The word is the dalet of bet joining with Resh. Okay, so now what part of it should he do away with? What part of the debir did Yeshua eliminate, or did Jesus do away with, or annihilate, or fulfill, or toss in the can when he died on the cross? If anything, he opened the door. But does that mean he did away with the word? No. It means he opened the door. He didn't eliminate the door. It gets in the more theological conversation. We won't go there. Okay. So Daniel. The point about this, I'm going to do one thing before we get to Daniel, sorry. So I was asked to read this. This is in a nutshell a simple version of the meaning of the letters, another way to read them. We read before the list and said, did you see a story there? Okay. The aleph is like an ox. You set it on its course and it won't veer off the course. It'll accomplish what it was set to do. The bet is the incorporation of or into. The aleph would be like the architect who thinks of all the possibilities, decides, I'm going to do it like this. And then when he makes it, when he puts his thoughts and his possibilities into one definite plan and says, this is it. This is the building made according to the plan, having considered all the possibilities, that's the bet. The bet is the materialization, the actuality of the aleph concept, the architect's, the author's choice of all possible alternatives. Boom, it's bet. Gimel is the relationship between aleph and bet, which is to say, aleph didn't just make it and sit back and say, I'm just going to watch it. But it's the engaging encounter of the relationship between the two. So I don't think we'll have time to go here, but I'm going to make mention of this. One way to read this alphabet is to say the third letter represents the dynamic or the difference between the two. So aleph relates to bet by mechanism of gimel, which is to say connected and transverse, back and forth. You could say then how this is the Messiah is that Yeshua himself, the Messiah, the man, the Vav of Yod He Vav He, is the guy, is the aspect of Yod He Vav He that walks the earth. Dalet is the earth. There's four corners, there's four dimensions, north, south, east, west. Four seasons, Dalet is earthiness. So Aleph, the silent letter, the invisible architect, Bet, incorporates himself, or makes himself corporeal, you might say, to Gimel the Dalet, to walk the earth, to be the one sent to come through the door, to be the door, to walk the earth, revealed as light, as a contrast to the darkness, by being the man who was put on the weapon. So that those men who are in the darkness, themselves confronting the weapon, can choose to enter the kingdom, thus be sealed and called the Creator's own, as he molds them into the pattern of his being by teaching and learning, making them become his own essence, of his own blood, of his own family, of his own character and nature, so that they will then have a position within his place as a good steward, that they will watch one another so that he will watch over them, and with the measure they use, he will measure to them. The reciprocation of all events, what goes around comes around, what you plant you will reap. He will explain his ways, the mind of Christ, the way, the methods, the processes of the Messiah, of Yahweh himself, who gives us and explains not to leave us in the darkness, but to say, this is what I told you and this is why. You regard his instructions, believe his promises as you do them. He tells you, the mouth, the pay, he tells you what's going on. Come, let us reason together. I'll explain the whole thing. You have a problem with it? Talk to me about it. That's what he does. With the Zadi set before us, which is not only the icon or the archetype of what we have to look forward to, but also the promise, the hope set before us that you will be like this. We are to be conformed to the image of Yeshua, the archetype, the prototype, the exalted one, the firstborn of many brethren. What are we going to end up looking like? Just like him in our way. In our own individual way. After this, Kuf, he comes back, Kuf concept, we go to be with him, Kuf concept, Resh, the face is seen. Moses only saw the backside. What did he see? The Kuf view, which was this, which was the Torah and everything in it that we're talking about. When he comes back, Resh, his face will be seen. We haven't seen that side yet. Sheen, everything's thrown into the fire. The wicked get burned, the righteous get refined. Everything gets thrown into the fire. Tav, the Aleph, is accomplished just as he said it would. There's the proof of it. That's the end of the matter. Again, reading real quickly, as I've gotten read here. The bull, the strong leader, the strong one of the house, the leader of the house, the master of the house, like a bull. He's not a bull, but he's like the metaphor of the bull. Of the house, who was lifted up, is the door, which reveals man's security, because it's man, a connector, that which holds tight, that which secures, who was cut off, so we who are cut off gain entrance to the big white fence, new beginning, the accomplishment of his purpose. Israel, the apple of his eye, that's like the pupil of your eye, that's the center part, that's the target, as it were. The Creator's kingdom made by his own hand, the Creator's gift is the Torah as a shepherd's staff. From the chaotic waters of death to new life, new being. He supports us. He's the vine, we're the branches, if we abide in him. He provides us mercy, wisdom, knowledge, insight, truth. We have with him communication, fellowship, sukkot. In him is the fulfillment of all our desires. The Zadi is also fishhook, which means desire. At last, after this, the Messiah, the head, El Shaddai, will destroy his enemies. Remember I said the Shad is like that which provides nourishment, but it's also that which throws down weapons. And then Tav, and fulfill his word according to his covenant. So there is, Yeshua himself is the architect, the one incorporated, the one who is sent, who is the door, who is the light, who became the man to die on the cross. He is the one who says, this is my kingdom, it is his. He is the authorized signature. He is the creator. He is the one who is our covering, who is given as a gift. He is the shepherd. He is the living water. He is the firstborn. He is the vine where the branches. He is the judge. He is the one whose mouth, by whose word he sustains all things. He is the one who is the Zadi, the righteous one. He is the one who rised up. He is the one who comes back. He's the one who revealed to Moshe. He is the exalted man, the Resh, who is coming back in the book of Revelation. He is himself El Shaddai, according to the book of Revelation. Yahweh, Yeshua, El Shaddai, the same people. He is the Tav of the Aleph. So there. If we take that as the key to identifying what the letters mean, then instead of going on this other list, we can use that. And this is what we end up with. In Daniel 12, verse 4, it says, "Go your way, Daniel." An angel showed up. This is the end of Daniel's life, near the end. An angel shows up. Daniel's sitting in Persia or Babylon 2,500 years ago from today, from this era. Daniel's sitting in Babylon. He's already had interpreted dreams and visions and all this stuff. And this angel shows up and says, "Daniel, hide the words and seal the book until Ayin Dalet, the time, Ayin Tav, of the end." Kuf Zadi. Daniel 12:4. So we could read that in English and say, okay, until the time of the end. When's the time of the end? He said, hide the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Okay, so what's going to happen at the time of the end? Jesus comes back, everybody gets raptured, he throws fireballs from heaven, and everybody dies. What about the words of Daniel? What's going to happen at the time of the end? Go your way, Daniel, hide the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Then, I heard a voice in the crowd. Then what will be revealed?
Then Daniel's words will be revealed.
Daniel's words, well, what words did Daniel hide? And I'll pause here for a moment for the sake of people listening on the tape. If Daniel was told to hide words and seal a book, we're told, I've been hearing for a couple decades now, that this is the time of the end. What words? What book? Where are they? Where's the words that Daniel hid and sealed? I've heard it was the book of Revelation, but the book of Revelation was written literally 600 years after Daniel was told that. So whatever Daniel hid was certainly not the book of Revelation. That may have been a key to the book of Revelation, but the words he hid and the book that he sealed was not the book of Revelation. Well, maybe it's a book that's hidden in a cave like the lost Dead Sea Scrolls that maybe somebody's going to find one of these days.
Ezra, second.
Well, the thing is, Ezra's another book, and you can say, well, yeah, but Daniel was sitting there. Verse 4, it says, hide the words, seal the book. Ayin Dalet Ayin Tav Kuf Zadi. But then in verse 9, it says, so Daniel, the words are hidden and sealed until the time of the end. It's like, wait a second. What did Daniel do between verses 4 and verses 9? I'll tell you what he said he did. Right after this verse, this is verse 4, he says, for many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Well, now, who said that? Was that Daniel who said that, or was that the angel who said that? It doesn't say, but then the next verse, verse 5, says, then I, Daniel, looked, and I saw one on this side of the river, and one on that side of the river. And then I saw above the river one clothed in white linen. And I said to him, hey, how long till the end of these wonders? When is the time of the end? How long? And this one, who was above the river, clothed in white linen, held up his hands to the heavens, and swore by him who lives forever, that it would be for a time, times, and half a time. And Daniel said, well, I heard, but I didn't understand. So I asked again, could you please tell me, when shall these things be? And then here's verse 9. He says, go, Daniel, the words are hidden and sealed. It's like, gosh, what in that picture makes any sense? Okay, so let's cut to the point. Two different things. Here, let me find Daniel 12. Before I go to Daniel 12, let me show you one other thing. Regarding Daniel 12. Okay, Ayin Dalet. What does an ayin mean according to this translation? It means see, understand, knowledge, deep, fountain, like a well, judgment, like scales, like judgment day. All that stuff is ayin stuff. Dalet, door. Tav, we've already talked about, is the sign of the covenant. Which covenant? According to Monty Judah, there's 12 or 15 or maybe 7, or there's some question of the number of covenants. Go back here real quick. If Aleph is the plan, then Aleph is the plan for Vav man, maybe to become Resh man. The Aleph is the plan for the Vav man to transcend into Resh man. Hey, that almost sounds like the gospel. That we are all to be born as standard humans and become another type. That all creation waits, yearning to wait and see what the sons of Yahweh will actually be revealed as being. That it was his intention from the beginning. His Aleph was this, and when it happens, we'll all go, that's the Tav. When we see what he intended for humans to become, of which Yeshua was the prototype, as he appeared on earth, walked as a common man, was crucified, resurrected, and appeared as the Resh man. If that is the light that he actually spoke into Yahi, or I designed it, I revealed it, I'm calling it mine. And we say, oh, that just means light, separating light from darkness. But yet there was no luminaries yet. There was no sun, moon, and stars. So what light was he referring to? Could it be that when he initiated all of creation, he said, it's all about this. It's all about Vav man becoming Resh man. And the covenant is my deal, my terms of engagement with the men how this is going to happen. Not to go there right now because we got to get into Daniel, but this is what I found in looking at the different places where he talked about a covenant. And he says, so I will make a covenant with you. That's always in the aleph position of a statement of thoughts. An aleph is, okay, here's the plan. Here's the deal. Here's the purpose. That's aleph. The aleph says, okay, out of all the possible things, I've narrowed it down to this. So, thinking of all this stuff is the aleph. This that it is the bet. It's the architect who makes the house. But the bet is also the one it's given to. Because the bet is the one that is the embodiment of the aleph plan. So again, what is bet? Bet's a number of different things, but it's that which contains the aleph. The aleph is the plan for vav men to be resh man. So the bet, the house of aleph, is those men, those people, those humans who have chosen to regard the covenant to enter the kingdom to become, after this, resh man into the realm of El Shaddai, the sheen of fire. If that's the covenant, where he says, I will certainly accomplish my aleph concerning vav man to resh man. And the way vav man gets to be resh man is according to this. Boom, 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 boom. These letters then represent his plan of his work. He will make everything be. He will make sure it happens. He will work it through. He'll be the liaison between the two. He came down, walked with Abraham, talked with Abraham, came down, dealt with Moshe and Noah and Yaakov and as Yeshua, and he walks with us and talks with us as the song goes. He is the guy that does this and provides the door and reveals the door's light. There's the door. See it? There's the door. It's not hidden. Here it is. He reveals the door's light. We then engage these things, which he has established as covenant. In other words, these letters all represent stuff he does, but it's also stuff we do. We, the men, the Vav, do these things. After this is what's promised to us. Resh Shin Tav is what it will be on the other side of this material extent. So between Vav and Kuf is this world, that's the next. Okay, that's at the end of this world. That's after this. Okay, so what's the covenant? The covenant is, this is the terms. This is the way it works. That's the covenant. And the covenant is, I designed it. I'm going to do it. Count on it. Risk your life according to it. Bet your life that that's what it is. You need some proof? 7 days of creation. You need some more proof? The 7 festivals. They map to the pattern. They corroborate the pattern. You need a little bit more proof? One more. Matthew chapter 6. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Those in darkness who are aware of their poverty and says, I want something different. I don't want the darkness of death. I want the promise of the kingdom of heaven and life. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now, in the darkness, all you know is that you're beaten and whooped. Once you come into the kingdom and you go, I didn't know this. They didn't tell me about the Shabbat. They didn't tell me about the festivals. They didn't tell me about the ways of life. What have I done with my life? Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. How comforted? Shown the truth. Blessed are the meek. When you realize it's not by my merit, but it's by His grace, His gift that He gives us, His stuff, His cleansing, His calling us His own, His filtering, His forming on the potter's wheel. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. That's the day that the earth was brought forth. He says, heaven and earth are mine, and I give it to whoever I choose. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Like the shofar is filled with breath, the menorah is filled with oil to bear fruit. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. I'm watching you. The way you treat one another is the way you will be treated. Like a pendulum that swings, that's what you've done, it comes right back. Evil for evil, blessing for blessing. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Elohim. Ark of the Covenant, meaning the altar of incense, was right in front of this side of the veil. The Ark of the Covenant was on that side of the veil. And the veil's parted. You see right into the place of the presence of Elohim, of the Almighty. The pure in heart, the ones who, as sweet incense before Him, talk with Him, walking humbly with Him. For they shall see Him. And blessed are the peacemakers, having done all this, having chosen life as opposed to death, having learned His ways and filtered them through, having believed His promises, having walking the course, the constant pattern of doing justly, loving mercy, walking on with Him, with the hope set before you. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of Elohim. That is our hope. That is the desire. That's set before us. That's the Beatitudes. After this, see this, the kuf throws you back into the darkness. Not only to take you up into the other elevation, but it's this overview that also throws you back around. So this whole thing is like this wheel, right? Throws you back out there, where you're back in the midst of the daily life, where he says, blessed are they who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. Anyway, there's the Beatitudes mapped to the pattern. So now, let me address this. If this is the covenant, what's the door? If this says understand the door, understand the covenant, if this is the covenant, what's the door? What's the door to the covenant? Well, there's a pretty simple key to the door. Yeshua said, I'm the door. This is Yeshua. Understand Yeshua. Wait a minute. No, Jesus said I'm the door. Well, who's Jesus? Is He the guy? Is He the guy that changed the Sabbath day from Saturday to Sunday? That did away with the 7 festivals and gave us Christmas and Easter? Is He the guy that saved us from a list of rules? I heard it preached on the radio that Jesus saved us from a list of rules. Is He that guy? You don't understand. You don't see. Who's Yeshua? Here's Yeshua. The Ruach HaKodesh is Yeshua. He follows the orchestrated, prescribed, holy, kadosh path of the wind, as it were, the breath of the Almighty. If that's Yeshua, then you see that this is the catch-22. As in the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. That if you understand Yeshua, you'll understand the covenant. If you understand the covenant, you'll understand Yeshua. But if you don't see them both, you have neither. If then, to understand the door is to understand the covenant, after that we can what? Kuf Zadi. After that we can Zadi. After that we can do righteousness. Because what is righteousness? Doing the covenant just the way Yeshua told us to. Which includes the Sabbath day and the festivals, doing justice, loving mercy, not doing away with the list of rules, but embodying the list of rules and letting them shine like the menorah and be as in your face as the shofar sound is to your ear, piercing the ear to the glory of Elohim. Kavod, as I think that starts with a kaf. Kaf bet dalet. Kavod. I gotta look that one up. But the point is, depending on how you spell it, it's the letters bet dalet mean alone or unique. As in, Adam was made and it wasn't good, it wasn't tov for Adam to be alone. The word alone is bet dalet vav, bado. It wasn't good that he was bado. Bad, bet dalet means alone, unique, one of a kind. So the thing is, to be the glory is like the kaf, that the covering, which is like no other. The unique, one of a kind covering is the glory, is the of the His ways. Unique like no other. if this is the meaning of the alphabet, we're going to go to a break here in a minute. And we're going to go to the rest of Daniel and start looking at the verses and the words and say, applying this methodology, how do you take every word? If this is now that we can see that Yeshua is the covenant and the covenant is Yeshua, now we can kuf zadim. And if we can do that, then we can look at every other word in Daniel and say, what is it telling us? And I'll start off by reading the translation I have, and then we can tell you how you got there. So you'll see where this goes, because it just gets pretty weird compared to what we think it says. Well, anyway, it's time to change the film.